Hello and welcome back to Starlight Talks. I'm here with Dana Conor, my cousin, and we're going to talk about his history with working with the autism community. I'm in Washington, D.C. right now, so if this is not, seems like it's not usual, I don't know how the internet will be. So, guys, leave comments below if there's anything going wrong. As usual, check out the website, OurTism.com, where I have a blog where I write about living on the spectrum. You can check out our life map programs, our support groups, and all the amazing stuff. We just updated the website, so go check all that stuff out. It's so much more organized now. And I have a workshop coming up in Florida, so you can get tickets for that. Oh, thanks, Zoe. She said it looks and sounds great. So thank you all for tuning in this week. I'm here with Dana Conor, my cousin. And hi, Richard. Thank you for coming back every week. We're going to talk about his work with the autism community and the disability community. So do you want to introduce yourself a little bit, Dana?
Sure. My name is Dana Conor. I'm 56 years old from New Bedford, Massachusetts. Chloe's dad, Chad, is my cousin. I hadn't seen Chad in many years up until a few months back, and I got to meet Lily and Chad and discussing what I've done in my career. So, I'll just give you a little feedback. I started in 1987, and I started working with adults with developmental disabilities, and from there, I quickly graduated running group homes. So I ran group homes for 15 years, from '87 to 2002, and that dealt with all kind of different people with different abilities and different disabilities. And then from there, I worked at Bradley Hospital, and that's where I really started working with autistic children. I used to go into people's homes and do home-based treatment with autistic individuals, and basically work with their families on how to best work with them, and do some recreational activities, and it was very interesting. I had a Indian child named, I'll just call him Arun, and he was something else. He was really intelligent, and but he would get locked in on certain words and get stuck, and then he couldn't get out of that word. And if you couldn't find the right word with him, he would go into behavior, and it was really something else. And he was the first autistic child I worked with, and I still remember him very well, and I still have contact with him every now and then. It was something else. So I did that, and then I worked at the May Institute after that for 10 years, and I ran vocational programs for people with disability, autism, Asperger's, everything. So I've done quite a bit in my career.
Well, yeah. So, and you also have a long history with the community where we've made a lot of progress over just the last few years. Like,
right.
Originally, we didn't think females could be on the spectrum, and Asperger's and autism were different diagnoses. Now they're the same. So there's a lot of change that has been happening, and there was more stigma and taboo about having those labels in the past. So I'm sure you've seen a lot of that change as well.
I have. Like, when I first started working, there was always a stigma with people. I'd go out to eat with my individuals, and people would literally get up and move their chairs and that type of thing. And it was heartbreaking for me because the people I worked with, I was all about their capability and not about their disability, and that's how I've always looked at it. So things have changed because of people like you doing your thing, and putting the word out there. I think it's really impressive, and it makes me proud to be your cousin, Chloe.
Yeah, I think that bringing more awareness is very important, and just telling your story and that there's programs on TV and there's movies being made with characters that have different disabilities with autism and all different things that now it's not something that's thought of as different and strange and scary, that like people are realizing that everyone just wants to be included and there's nothing to be scared of, you
Right.
know, that you
Yeah,
don't need to hide those people away.
I agree because there's still going to be this certain amount of the public that are, if it's different, then they're afraid of it, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand that, because I'm sympathetic to the situation, but um, there's always going to be those people out there who just aren't going to get it, and those people you just choose not to deal with. You can try to educate them, but some people are just hard headed and don't want to open their mind. Just put it that way.
Mm-hmm. I found one of the most difficult things with working in this field is meeting parents who want that quick fix. They're like, "Oh, just give me something so my kid doesn't act like they have autism." Doesn't
Yeah,
And so I'm sure you ran
a
into
magic
that a
pill.
lot.
Magic
Yeah,
pill. Right? It doesn't work. Right? Yeah, it doesn't happen. It's a lifelong thing, isn't it? All right. I
yeah.
mean, your progression is a lifelong. Is you're going to progress in your life, and I'm still progressing in my life. We all are, and you have to let people with autism, Asperger's, or on the spectrum. They need to progress in their own time, in their own way, and if you need to be patient with that. That's the thing. Everybody wants a quick fix. That's just kind of the way of the world, but it doesn't happen with autistic children for sure.
Mhm. So I'm wondering if you have any stories about doing something different that like, I guess parents wouldn't expect as the norm, that when it worked, like you changed their minds, because I know that's something that happens a lot where I'm like, well, everyone else like takes the phone away as a punishment, and I'm like, well, a lot of times those of us on the spectrum don't connect punishment the same way. We need like natural consequences, because then it makes sense
Right,
why that's happening.
right,
Where if you just take the phone away, then you get meltdown. It's unfair. Why are you doing that?
right. So you're asking like what, like a behavior type thing, or
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Um, I have a lot of stories, but I've done so much stuff, but I'll do one story. I had a parent resisting me about. I had a blind individual who I wanted to send, who was very self reliant, could get around, but wanted to shop for on his own in a convenient, like an Ames. It was an Ames back then, sort of like a small retail store, like a Walmart, and so I called the Mass Commission for the Blind and got them involved, and then they would take him into the store to get him familiar with the surroundings. And so he, in time, and the mother was resisting this just because she didn't think her son could do this, but he would get into that store on his own, get to the service counter, and he'd have a list, and the service representative would take him around and shop for his items. So that's one thing I've done. And he was an autistic child, but there was a lot of resistance. I mean, the mother didn't want it to happen, but I wanted him to be independent because he wanted to be independent. So that's one story.
Yeah, there that expectation is interesting, because I've seen both sides of it, where like someone expects their um, child with autism to just be capable of all the exact same things as everyone else in the same way,
Right,
when that's not possible. And then I've also seen, oh, my kid can't do anything because they have autism.
right,
So,
yeah,
and both those things are very challenging to deal with. And we tend to meet expectations when you put them out. And so if your expectation is too low, then that's all we feel we can meet. Because if our parents don't believe in us, then
right,
how do we believe in ourselves?
right.
So that's a big thing.
You got to set the bar high, and then you go from there. I'm probably making you laugh because I'm saying bar, but that's with my New England accent. But yeah, it's, you know, you got to set the bar high for everybody and everybody in life, and if you can't reach your expectations if that bar isn't set high, and it starts with your parents, but you have your own inner drive. I got to meet Lily, and I know she does, and your dad's a pretty funny character too. So he's he's into his music and all his stuff, and so he was great to see it too. But you know, he likes to do his thing with his music. He left us 4 or 5 CDs, so it was pretty interesting.
Oh yeah, he takes his CDs everywhere, and just in case he has an opportunity to check it out.
Right before he left, he goes, "Well, here's 4 CDs for you." So it was great.
Oh, that was my service dog. If you heard that, he's trying to get my attention. That's good.
All right.
So Zoe just left a comment. She said, "I would love to hear any insight into what Chloe just said about taking something away as discipline as opposed to natural consequences in the autistic wiring."
See, I'm not a firm believer in taking anything away works, because that's as soon as you take something away that, you know, say that person wants, then you get into behavior. There's going to be more natural consequences for that type of thing. I mean, taking anything away. I mean, my experience, as soon as you would say to an autistic kid or an Asperger's kid, "You lost this," then you're probably looking at full-blown behavior. And so you don't say that. And there's other ways to word things, like, you know, "Chloe, if you don't do it this way," I mean, "Chloe, I'm not going to take anything away from you, but you need to act this way, or I need you to be this way," as opposed to saying, "I'm just going to pull something away from you. You're not going to get a snack tonight," or whatever. Food was always that reinforcer back when I started. They would use food as, "Well, you're not going to get your snack tonight." And that would always lead to full-blown behaviors. And then, you know, everybody's right to have a snack, right? I mean, you have a snack when you want. But when I ran group homes and stuff, there was programmatic stuff that was really Neanderthal to me. Even back when I was a young guy, I was like, "This don't seem right to me. They should be allowed to have a snack no matter what."
If you're hungry, you should be able to eat.
Exactly. It's crazy how things get muffled in a group home setting back in the day. It was things were a lot different back when I started in 1987. Just put it that
way. Yeah. But I still, as much as we progress, there's also like a lot of people who are stuck in that mindset, and I think it's just changed to like different things where it's like, "Oh, we'll take the video games away," or, "Oh, we'll take whatever it is that the kid is really into." And I've argued that video games, for those of us on the spectrum, can be our only way to connect socially, and socializing is a need. And so to take that away from a kid that doesn't have friends, right? That could be devastating.
Right, because that's his friend. That may be his only friend, right? That video game.
Yeah. So when you have a kid that has a obsession, which I don't like that, or that special interest, which are used so negatively, like it should be like a passion and excitement rather than, "Oh, let's use this thing that they love to get them to do what we want them to do." Like, why would you do that? Why would you make something they love into something that to manipulate them with?
It's right. It's just a form of control, and that's what it is. And what you think you're not controlling any behavior, you're actually inciting it. You know. So, like I said, my opinion on that is taking things away only causes you problems. It causes the staff person problems, or whoever's working with that person, and it certainly causes the person, who you're taking something away from. It certainly leads to acting out behavior for sure.
So Zoe just responded to that. She says, "I feel that taking away comes from fear-based parenting. I still drop into, I will take the iPad away, and it leads to huge distress with my 9-year-old son."
I mean, all that stuff can be done in moderation too. It's
Mm-hmm.
so, if you're not just, that's not the first thing. It's not your first go-to. That could be your last resort. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, it could be some steps where, she's talking about her son, and I don't, did she mention his name? I don't know if she did. But,
Billy. She didn't mention it, but I
call him
know.
we'll call him Billy, but we go, Billy, you need to be this. I mean, it's all how you approach things too when you're dealing with, people with autism on the spectrum. It's how you approach things. I had one individual I used to work with. Have you ever heard of the Three Stooges?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
My
All
dad
right. Well,
loves
he
the
was
Three
he was really
Stooges.
really into the Three Stooges. So if you were to do like the Three Stooges sound or something, he'd just jump out of his seat and start, and he'd get all riled up over just the Three Stooges. So like people, this is what staff people will do. They'll come in and instigate, do something behind his back, and
Mm-hmm.
and they get the kid all fired up, and that was never a good thing. But it's very interesting. I had another autistic person I worked with who could, if you gave him your date of your birth date, say like me, December 12th, 1962, he would look at you 2 seconds later and tell you you were born on Wednesday, and he was right.
That was awesome.
And he was right like 100% of the time. Like everybody used to do it. His name was Ahmad, and he could do that. Tell you your birthday just by me saying December 12th, 1962. He would give you your birth. Yeah, the day you were born. It was incredible. Incredible. So there's so many skills, and that's what I found with working with autistic people or people on the spectrum is they got their own ability, their own unique talent. Like you're doing your thing. So,
Mm-hmm.
but you seem to have many talents. So that's good.
We got big old comment from Alyssa Eastbeck. She says, my son is in kindergarten and he masked completely in school to the point that the school says he's just like all the other kids and then melts down as soon as school is out. He doesn't do any of his stims, no behaviors, barely even wiggles. Watching him, I feel like he puts his inner self on lockdown to survive school. I'm trying to work with the school to find ways that he can bust out a little in school so he's not so fried when school lets out. I think that would mean he would appear more autistic in school, but I'm okay with that. Or am I totally off base with that? Would actually be lowering expectations for him and doing him a disservice that way. Well, I definitely relate to that. School is so it definitely wants everyone to act a certain way.
Right.
Like starting in like kindergarten, you have to sit it still for so long that
Right.
um, you just can't. Especially if you're autistic, you need a lot of movement. If you need to process information, a lot
Right.
of times you need to
Right.
stim. If you're
Yep.
dealing with emotion, you need to move. Like there's um and just kids in general move way more. I know I stimmed an insane amount when I was little. I loved to spin on swivel chairs and hang my head upside down, do headstands, and run around and
Right.
do be on the swing set. So, like, if someone could put me on a swing set and then give me a lesson, oh my god, life would be so much
You would
easier.
have been. You would have been right. You needed
Yeah,
that stimulation besides
yeah.
just sitting still to it's tough because
Mm-hmm.
you're expected to sit still and do what everybody else does, yet you got all this stuff going on within yourself, and so it's
Mm-hmm.
it's, it's difficult.
Yeah. I actually have had conversation with my mom. If I were to do school over, I would probably have wanted to do homeschool because then I could go at my own pace
Right.
and I could take breaks when I needed to, when I got overwhelmed. And if I needed to go outside and be on the swing or spin around while I was listening to something, I could do that without distracting everyone else. And if I wanted to stay still, I could do that. So, um, I know that's not always possible in public school setting, because if you had everyone swinging and like that probably wouldn't work.
Probably, yeah,
Um, but he should have a place he can leave the classroom and go to. I think that's very important in a school setting.
right,
I in elementary school, I went to the nurse's office. In upper classes, I went to actually the special needs room.
right,
Um, there was always, I was in chess club um, during uh, a couple years, and I went actually to chess club during lunch when I couldn't handle it, and I didn't do chess. But the teacher let me come in and just hang out there, and it was quiet in there, and
so
I
you
could
just went in and did your
we
own
can play.
thing, and
Yeah, so
yeah,
I found those places, but I'm sure if you talk to the school about having a specific place for that kid to go to, could be the library, it could be the nurse's office, like somewhere they can go to, and or someone that can take them out and run around for a few minutes and then come back in. That would probably really help with that, because I learned in to regulate myself when I was older and like step outside the classroom and spin for a few
yeah,
minutes and then come back in. But as a young kid, it's hard to know when to
right.
do that.
Right. And then when I read my programs at the May Institute, would there be times where I just have one of my staff and say, well, why don't you take Timmy for a walk? He's a little bit overstimulated in the classroom. And I'd go take him up for a walk, couple of walks around the building, and he'd come back in and he'd be right back on task. Just so he just needed that outlet, just to
Mm-hmm.
go burn that energy or whatever.
I was one of my friends. All she needed was a sketchbook in front of her to draw, and that was enough for her. So like it, there's some
So
people that need STEM toys. There's
so many different things, and
yeah.
each person is the individual, right? So you would need
Mm-hmm.
to treat them that way and find out what makes them tick, and
Mm-hmm.
what's to their liking and what's to their strengths, and
Yeah.
play to that.
Yeah, and allow them to ask for what they need, because I know that people would a lot of times in school I found people being shut down for asking for things, and that was so disappointing. Even like, how can teachers say, "Oh, you only get so many bathroom passes"? Like, if you have to go, you have to go.
Exactly. If you think about it, it really makes no sense, right? And it's just also all forms of control. You figure if I let one person go 6 times, then the next person is going to ask to go 6 times, and which may happen, but you still shouldn't limit that. So we say no limits, right? There's no limits, Chloe.
Mhm. Yeah. I always say don't act out of fear, and definitely teachers act out of fear instead of reality. Where, okay, if you're setting rules based on fear rather than, oh, this is actually happening right now, you're gonna cause way more issues than if it's like, if you said, okay, this kid actually is going to the bathroom way more than they should.
Right.
Do they have a medical problem, or are they just goofing off and we need to address this? And I'm sure it's only one or two kids that are going to do that. It's not like the entire class is going to all raise their hand and go, okay, I'm going to go to the bathroom and then go run out to recess. Like, I can't imagine that being a reality. And
Anyway,
so,
just the fact that they would put that in their mind, but I think that's how they think, So,
yeah.
yeah, but it's not reality for sure.
Mm-mm. Kids want to learn. They love school. They love the classroom.
Right, right, right. And I found that people I've worked with, they really want to learn. They take pride in learning new skills. And I've had autistic kids that work for me on my work groups, and they're able to do as good a job cleaning, say at a Burger King or whatever, cleaning tables as the next guy. As a matter of fact, they take more pride in it and do a better job. To be quite honest, because they're more
Mm-hmm.
meticulous.
I'm looking through the comments right now. We had
That's
someone that agreed with Alyssa's comment about her son, and she says mine says he hates himself at school but doesn't tell anyone. Oh, I do think school can be so harsh mentally, starting at such a young age. I've talked about before, like I don't understand how kindergartners can get a failing grade. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's either, isn't it even you don't get how can you fail in kindergarten? You didn't
Like,
choose the right color or to color? I don't know.
And Zoe says, same for my 9-year-old son. My 8-year-old daughter displays her struggles at school, mostly at home too. Our school is so wonderful for my kids, yet this still happens for us. I feel it is a way. It's the way it will be for now. Oh, my dad just signed up. He said, "What's up, cuz?"
Hey, how you doing, cousin? Cousin Chad.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm definitely agreeing with these comments about school and what we were talking about, like that reward and punishment system
Right.
is what school's based on. That give and take away. Like if you don't behave, we're taking away recess.
Right.
You know, all those kind of things, and so they
It
like
does,
try to
it
scare
doesn't
you into behaving instead of, you know, making it fun and making it exciting and helping you in
achieve. Right.
your
Taking things
differences.
away, it just, in all my experience, when you take things away, you're just creating problems. I mean, they're not learning. People I worked with weren't learning anything from us taking stuff away from them, except to act out, and that's what you didn't want. But you were creating your own problems by taking stuff away. That's what I believe.
Yeah, for sure.
My son just passed me a note. He said that he's not he'd be willing to do a podcast with you at some point if you wanted to do one with them.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So you can set one up if you want with him. Yeah. And I said, Cameron Conor, your cousin. He's in the background here.
Hi, Cameron.
Come say hi. Can he come say hi?
Yeah, you can come say hi.
There's your cousin Cam.
Hi.
So he's got some experience. So he started
5 years.
5 years. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
He followed in his dad's footsteps, and he's I've always loved that work. I'm not doing that work right now, Chloe, and I'm doing some data entry work for some government tax stuff, and I miss that type of work. I really do, and I still dabble in it. There's a place in New Bedford, Mass. That call it Kennedy Donovan Center. I'll still go work with certain individuals. They'll call me, and I'll go do some recreational stuff with them. But I don't know. I'm not hands on like I used to be. But I did do 27 years, so I got some kind of career.
Have you found bonding with the kids? Because I found the first special needs community person that I met that really validated me. It was like we clicked so fast, and I was so drawn to that because I felt like that validation and listening to me and actually seeing who I was, and that didn't happen very often for me. And so I like really trusted that person immediately. He has actually been on one of my talks. If you go way back to the beginning, Adam Walsh was on. We talked about RTE.
Now he was somebody that worked with you.
Yeah.
Right.
In middle school, I was misdiagnosed with ADD and OCD, and I was switched to this private school. And he did the special needs class at that school, and so there were 6 of us in his class, and there were 3 teachers there. So we had tutors for all different subjects, and then he helped us figure out how to use a planner and how to organize all these different things. And he also gave us like so many life lessons. But I just remember him like caring about my interests and validating me.
Right.
And I felt listened to for like the first time at school in a very long time. And so I could go to him and say, you know what, I'm really overwhelmed today. Can I just stay in your classroom? And he was like, yeah.
No problem.
No questions asked. Just sure, just do what you need to do. If you want to be on the computer, there's a computer. We have bean bags. He was the only classroom that had a bean bag you could lay on the floor in his class. And like he had awesome. He really got it. So like
Right.
he had a desk you could sit at, he had computers you could sit at, he had the floor you could lay on, and there were 3 teachers there you could ask about
And,
homework and
so
anything
he
you
was the
needed.
guy just real, and in your time coming
Yeah.
up, one person who you really felt you connected with.
Yeah. So
Right.
so how did you find that it was
Yeah.
really easy to bond with the kids when you listened?
I still have relationships with guys I started with back in 1987. He still says Danny Conor. He calls me Danny Conor. He says Danny Conor is my boy, and he was a guy that had major behavior issues, and I bonded with him, and we're still bonded all these years later. So yeah, and many individuals I work with, I felt like I had a real good bond with. I've worked with quite a few, so over the years. So yeah, that I think it's important. But like I said, I always got into. I wanted to figure out who Chloe was, and I wanted to get to know you. And I kind of use this as like when I coach. I coach youth sports, and I get to know each kid on my team, what makes them tick. And it was the same way I approach working with people with autism or developmental disabilities. I got inside, and there was a trust factor, and I found out what made them tick, and I went from there, and that always worked for me. Always had a huge bond for sure.
Yeah, I I think that's really important to have that trust
Right.
before you go into let's figure out a problem, because if you don't trust someone and you're dealing with something so vulnerable like that,
Right.
it's just not going to go down well.
And then you get to the different type of people with sensory issues. When I met Lily, your sister, I said, "Is it okay if I hug you?" Just because I didn't know if it was okay with her. It's just because of sensory issues. I've had autistic people I've worked with that you touch them and it's a problem. You know what I mean? Just because of their own sensory issues. So yeah, all that stuff comes into play for sure.
Yeah, that question always makes me feel more comfortable. Like I'd rather someone tell me they're about to go in for a hug than like surprise.
No, yeah, because you're right, exactly. And I don't know if Lily remembers, but I asked, "Is it okay if I give you a hug?" And she nodded her head. Or
Really, do you remember that? Do you remember Dana asking you if he can hug you? Yeah. Yeah, she remembers that.
Yeah,
So she's watching because I have my headphones in, so she can't hear it. And it's on a little bit of a delay, so she has to
I see.
But yeah, for sure, like that. That can be a huge way to gain someone's trust. Is just like little things like that. Just not going, oh, you need to hug me, instead of going, oh, is it okay if I go in for a hug now? And you'll get more yeses if you just ask.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You could get something you don't like if you don't ask. So it could be, especially if you're dealing with an individual who doesn't want to be touched. That could set off a major behavior. I've seen it happen, and people just don't know, and they go in for the hug or whatever, or the touch, and then it becomes a problem. So that's just education out there. It's like what you're doing now with autism is wonderful, because you're out there and you're educating people, and they certainly need it for sure. People who haven't worked in the field like I have, or people in your situation, the general public don't definitely always understand what's going on for sure.
Yeah. So that reminds me of when I was in college, we had to take those courses on like alcohol and rape and all that kind of stuff. And I
Right.
remember we had that speech that was like you should ask before you do anything, before you touch someone, before you kiss someone, before is this okay?
Right.
Is this okay?
Right.
And I was like, for different reasons, I really like that because I don't pick up on social cues. So everyone literally went, hey, I want to be your friend. Is that okay? And then I'd be like, oh my God, I understand what everyone's saying. And then their intentions are the world should be like this.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I couldn't agree more.
um, Everyone's like, oh, that ruins the surprise of romance. I'm like, I don't think romance should be a surprise. You should know it's coming.
It shouldn't be a surprise. That's for sure.
um, so, so yeah, and I'm like, well, if you want it, then you just like say, you know what, you don't have to ask me. You can come in for a hug. But like, if you just ask permission from everyone and then go, oh, these people don't need that me to ask them, then like that's their boundaries. Like everyone has different
Yeah,
boundaries. And I wish the world was a little bit more like that instead of like everyone should be this way.
it's funny that you talk boundary because I taught a course called Nonviolent Crisis Intervention, which basically was they taught you verbal interventions as opposed to physical interventions, and how to talk somebody down while that's in behavior, those type of things. And I taught that for 7 years, and it was pretty interesting. I also taught restraint holds, and I never really loved doing that stuff. At times, we had to do that, especially with some of the people I dealt with. But it was never fun. Just put it that way.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on that? Like when I'm sure you've seen it in your time, people being restrained and this type of thing that were acting out, and as opposed to verbal redirection. And
So I think that physically grabbing someone, I obviously it's unavoidable if someone's like going to hurt someone, but it's a last case scenario. It is not the first thing you do.
It is the last case scenario for sure.
And it's like you take them to a safe space where then they can let out, like you let them go. Like you don't just hold on to them. I don't understand that. That just escalates it. Like you bring them to a space, like, I don't know, their bedroom or a room that doesn't have anything breakable where they can't hurt anyone or themselves.
Right.
Like that makes sense. Where I've heard there's horrible stories of people just pinning a kid down to the ground.
It's horrible.
For 20 minutes. And I'm like, why? And what? There's no reason to do that. Like, if you need to take them outside the classroom so they're not hurting the other kids, that makes sense. But if you're just holding them on the ground, that's, for what reason do you need to do that?
I think all it does in the end is stress out the staff who are doing it, because it gets old. It's not fun. And it really stresses out the individual who's going through it. So I'm not a big proponent of it, and it's part of the reason I'm not doing it anymore, because the May Institute or that program was a lot of the final thing was the full blown restraints, 6-point restraints. I'm just not feeling it. Never was. I always felt like I could get into somebody's mind and talk to them and figure them out and be able to talk them down, as opposed to, and use my brain and whatever they wanted, and talk them down to get them to where they were at a therapeutic stage where they were good. I mean, so that's how I always operated. It was to use my mind, and to if you were having a problem, I would know you well enough to be able to talk to you and work things out.
Yeah. When I was just talking about this today, when I was little, I was terrified of getting a shot, and I had nurses pin me down to do it or threaten to pin me down.
Wow.
Now I'm traumatized. Like, to this day, I don't want a shot, not because of the actual shot, but because of those memories, where if they had just sat me down and calmed me down or distracted me or done, there's so many different things that they could have done to make that a much more pleasant experience. I mean, I'm not going to be like, yeah, I got a shot like that, but now it's just like that's associated with getting a shot, and then it was worse every time. Like I don't, it's not helpful.
So they told you they would hold you down
Yeah,
just because you were
I
resisting the shot. It was. This is not them not knowing what's going on, but it's just like
I
unacceptable.
wasn't diagnosed with anything at the
Right.
time.
So
They're just like,
they're
this is
still
a
gonna hold
bratty
you down.
kid. And I'm like, I'm crying because I don't want a shot. That's a bratty kid. And then I felt like I did something wrong and I was being punished. And
Right.
like, and then I remember them saying things like, "Oh, would you rather get this horrible disease and die?" And I was just like, "Yeah, I would." Like, what do you want me to say
Yeah,
to that?
that's unbelievable. Geez, and this was when you were in coming growing up. It's like
Yeah,
pediatrician
it
nurses.
was pediatrician. Yeah,
That's Neanderthal. Wow.
yeah. And so my twin sister, she had a lot of medical issues. So she was actually at like Children's Hospital and places like that. And so her experience was so different. She was dealing with nurses where that's all they did was take care of these very specialized things for the kids.
Right.
And so she's like, "Oh, it was so wonderful. They always waited till I calmed down, and they had candy or teddy bears ready, and they told me stories while they drew my blood, so I never saw the blood if I didn't want to." Um, and where like I'm like that, I was like pinned down to get just a shot.
So now, even to this day, now it's that
Yeah,
those memories come
that
back.
stays with you. It
Yeah,
does.
I'm sure. Sure,
Like
it's like a nightmare.
um,
Yeah.
and, and my parents quickly saw that that was not a way to handle that situation, and like the nurse that initiated that, they didn't let her come back into the room with me ever again. Um,
Well, that was
but
good.
yeah, yeah. So then, yeah, they started yelling at these nurses if they ever tried anything. But it's so crazy, like that someone would work with kids and do something like that.
Right. And you were with your parents when that was happening.
Yeah,
Just think of people who are with like a staff person who's not
yeah.
invested in them at all, who's just there to collect the whatever money they're making. And
Hmm.
so I mean, because when you do that type of work, say you work in a group home, you become their taxi driver, you become their doctor, you take them to all their doctor's appointments. You end up being their cook, you
Yeah.
end up assisting with personal hygiene. You wear a lot of hats, and there's a high turnover rate. So a lot of these people, they just see people coming in left and right who they don't really get to know, and then there's no connection.
Hmm. Yeah, I can't imagine if I couldn't cry to my parents and be like,
Right.
"Hey, I don't feel safe right now." I can't imagine that situation. Like, I I could see that I would never want to step foot in a doctor's office again. Like, I still like want my parents with me in case I shut down and go nonverbal or whatever happens. That they're there to defend me. You know?
You need that support system, and there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong. We all need
So
support, even when you get older.
yeah,
As old as I am, I still need support.
yeah. So
My
having someone there you trust, that's so important.
yeah,
That someone they have your back rather.
right. You,
That's
we
so
all
good.
have somebody who's there for us. And as a matter of fact, one of your other cousins, cousin Timmy's daughter Brienne, got married today. So
Oh,
we had a little ceremony. It was right down the road, right down the street from me, and it was pretty cool. So Brienne Conor is now Brienne Enos. It was
awesome.
pretty, yeah. So we got
Well,
to do a wedding today.
congrats.
I had the wedding today, and then I was saying, all right, and I got the podcast tonight. I'm having a good day. Yeah,
Congratulations.
it's great. It's great.
Yeah. All right. So we have um is it- yeah, 10 minutes left.
Okay.
So we can please leave any final questions you guys have so we can get to them. Um uh, we'll start wrapping up our
All right.
discussion.
Great.
Uh, but yeah, I agree with so many of your points. It's just important to see everyone as a person, and they all want to be included, even if it's not
Yes.
the exact same way as everyone else can be included. That's just really important to the disability community. And
Individuality is the key for me when I work
yeah,
with people with disabilities, because if you don't individualize each person, each Chloe, each Dana, or each Cameron, each Lily out there, right? You're missing the boat. You have to get to know them, get to know their strengths and weaknesses, and work with their strengths and develop their weaknesses. That's what I've always done. So that's why I was always pretty good at my job. I'm not bragging, but I was always pretty good at
that's great.
it.
Yeah.
We got any questions?
I'm not seeing any questions pop up, but we have um, someone um, from Heather's School Reborn commenting that about the restraining stuff. He says they still do this, especially for blood draw. I say he's autistic, but they just call in more people when I tell the lab. So yeah,
What
I
about?
feel like not everyone. When you say, "Oh, they're autistic," not people still don't understand what that word means, and you need to be very
They don't
specific.
have a clue. Those people.
Yeah.
They're not. They're in there. They're doing it. So the only way we're going to give them a shot is to hold them down. But there's other methods. I mean, I had people that I worked with who didn't like the dentist. And so, they would do little forms of sedation before they went to the dentist, but it would help as opposed to them being strapped down.
Yeah.
And that type of stuff. Yeah, I've seen some stuff in my time that I want to forget for sure. It's sad. It really is.
Yeah. I for sure have. I haven't seen as much of that, but I've definitely heard people say things that blew my mind. Like I remember, in my friend was talking about being like really depressed, and I remember going to my one of the school counselors
Uh-huh.
and going, "Hey, I'm really worried about my friend. He's saying things that are scaring me that aren't normal for him, and I'm not sure what to do. But I need somebody to know." And I still remember her saying, "Oh, what do you want me to do about it?" Like she literally just, "What do you want me to do about it?" And I was like, "I don't know. That's why I came to you.
All
Like
right. So
I'm
you
worried." um, and nothing came of that. And it just
so
like
you
that's
reached out and you got no assistance.
yeah. And so it's like, how do you trust people when that's their response, especially when it's school?
Yeah.
And I found that to be more common than it really should be. Like if you're a school counselor, it isn't that your job to
What am I supposed to do about it? Hit the road, pretty much. It's crazy, right? They're supposed to be
yeah,
counseling. That's their job.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
unbelievable.
don't know. I was like, I don't know, inform his mom and do something, just something, because he's scaring me, you know? And I can't imagine if something happened to this kid and I was like, well, I told the school, like, I don't know. Like, I would have felt so bad, and I'm sure that nothing happened, and I tried. So
But that's
I
people.
can't imagine when there's a real situation where something's going down and, like, nobody is if someone does the wrong thing or doesn't do anything, it's just
I mean,
heartbreaking.
doing nothing to me. That's another. I've seen people try to ignore certain type of things,
Mhm.
and you ignore stuff, and it escalates. So, I mean, that's not the answer either. So,
Yeah.
definitely ignoring the situation is not the answer.
Hmm. Yeah, and saying I don't know what to do, but I'm gonna find someone who does. That's my
Yeah,
favorite answer.
well, that's a great answer. I mean, at least it's not saying it's just shutting you right down. And in my experience is, if somebody asks us, well, I might not be able to help you with that, but I know somebody that can. One of your colleagues, or somebody you work with, is always somebody that's got different skill levels and might have a better rapport with that person or whatever. And that's what you go to.
I don't get why more parents and teachers are so afraid of saying I don't know. Like, that's a great answer. Like, us kids, we get it. We don't know a lot of things. And then,
right,
like, I remember being corrected so often that I was afraid to say I don't know. When anyone asked me something, I was like, oh, I know that. When I didn't, I was so defensive about that. If like adults around me said I don't know more often than they did, like, I would feel way more comfortable saying that.
Right. I mean, if you don't know something, how are you supposed to learn about it if you don't say, yeah, I don't know. So maybe you could enlighten me here.
Yeah. So we have Heather School Board says we need more people like you guys speaking to the public school system. Thank you.
That's good. That's good. Tell her thank you very much. She can hear me, I guess. Yep. Yeah. So I think it's wonderful what you're doing, Chloe. I really do. So, and I really appreciate you having me on tonight. It's we got to meet in person one of these days. I've never been to California, believe it or not, and I got my brother Neil's out there, and of course you guys are in Torrance, right? I mean, pretty much the Conor family, David and Brianne and Dan, all of them. So yeah, so maybe one of these days I'll fly out there, but I know you guys come back east, so if you guys ever come back, hopefully I get to meet you this time. Although I know you now.
Yeah. I keep missing the Boston trip. I really want to go back there
You've probably heard about that from your grandparents your whole life, right?
Yeah, I went like when I was super little, and there was like some reunion I went to, and there was just so many people that like the memories just a blur of so many faces.
Right,
and I was so little. But yeah, I definitely want to go, and I do want to go speak in Boston. I know there's a huge community of autistic people in Newton.
Yep, Newton, Mass.
I've been there before. I met A&E. Go check out A&E if you're from the Boston Newton area.
Right.
They're so great. And they focus a lot on girls. They have a lot of girls, which is different as well. They're such a great organization. There's so much there for the autism community, which is great.
Right.
I found Massachusetts to be very disability helpful. Like, it's such a great state where and then going right next door to New York where I went to school, it's so ableist. It's such the opposite. I'm like, that's so crazy.
Right. It's changed a lot over the years. It's definitely. Yeah. I mean, the programs are definitely much better now, and it's much more sympathetic to the individual. Like we were talking about earlier, everything is individual based, ISPs, and about all these individual service plans and all this stuff. And so, yeah, it's individual based, and it should be.
So, if anyone has any final questions, we have about a minute left. So I just wanted to quickly mention that I'm in DC because I'm going to be on a panel for Nexus Global Summit, and I'm going to be talking with a couple other people who have created jobs and created services in a needed community that didn't exist prior to us creating it. And so I'm really excited about that.
Awesome.
So yeah, people are paying to hear that, which is crazy. So yeah, I'm going to talk about how I created OurTism because I have autism and I needed services, and so I made them. Obviously, with the help of a lot of other people.
That's
but
awesome. It's great.
yeah, so that's what I'm doing tomorrow. Um, this is just crazy.
I think it's wonderful. You just keep getting out there and doing your thing and spreading the word, and
Mhm.
you're doing a great job, from what I can tell.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you have any final message for people watching?
Um, I would say live your life to your fullest, and spread your wings, and don't let this world hold you back. That would be my message.
All right, guys, thank you for watching. As usual, check out OurTism.com. We did the whole website, so the support groups are on there. Go join the adult support group. Hopefully, we'll have the parent support group back. And sign up for our Life Map free consultation. It's why I'm able to do all the things I'm doing. And that's amazing. And we have a few other coaches as well for that. And you can do it abroad. We do Skype. uh, it's just so great to have someone who I can call up and I have a meeting with once a week and could say, oh, here are the issues I'm having in my adult life, and I need someone to help me to break down how to get over these hurdles. Such as like she's helped me find guests for these live streams and how to plan and set dates and all those great things that can be difficult for us on the spectrum with our executive functioning challenges. Yes, uh, come back next week, Wednesdays, 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. It's 10 here in DC.
It's
We
11 now.
well, it's 11 now, but next week we'll start at 10. I have a camera coming on from Mentality, the podcast, where she brings on stories about mental health and tries to break that stigma about mental health and bring awareness to it. It's great. I was a guest on it on her last season, and she has her second season coming out real soon. I think next week, her first episode of the next season. So she's going to be on. So check her out next week. Mentality podcast, which is available on like almost every app or website that podcasts are streamed. Yeah, so she's awesome. And today's guest was Dana Conor. Thank you for being on.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it so much. It's so nice to meet you.
All right. Stay colorful.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.